It's your boy Saint Lucid, and this is another episode of the Godly series. Thank you so much for being here. I greet you all in love and light, and blessings, man. Blessings to you all. Today I want to speak about the dimensions. I've held off on this video for a long time because I had some notes that I had gotten some understanding in the past about the 3D dimension, and my phone crashed and I lost the notes, and I was feeling like I lost most of these golden nuggets that has been dropped to me by my higher self and stuff. So I felt like I should just hold off a bit until I understand and remember most of what I experienced. So I'm here today, ready to drop this video. Gonna make it nice and short. Okay, so 3D dimension is this physical plane right here, this low density plane right here, this heavy density plane, this solid plane right here. We are multi-dimensional beings. We are gods living in this human vessel. Alright? This human vehicle interacts with this physical plane. Alright? That's why we use this vehicle, is because this vehicle can interact with this plane. As simple as that. What this plane consists of is other solid matter things, alright, elements and solid objects and things that you can either accumulate or you can consume to nourish this vehicle. Okay? So a lot of us on what we call the 3D dimension, which is this solid plane, we came as gods, as multi-dimensional beings, into this physical vehicle. We grew up into society and realized that we are human beings, because that's what they taught. And further on our life, we awaken to the truth, the true self that we gods, okay? But we are still living on this 3D plane, okay? This 3D plane has its own needs, okay? There's requirements to live on this 3D plane. We are a physical being. We are or should I say, this vehicle is a physical being, and it requires things, okay? It requires food, it requires water, it requires the things that it needs to nourish itself, okay? And to live, alright? So that's why we do what we do in order to live on this plane. Now this plane also requires financial stability, which is money, alright? So we try to get that as well. This plane also requires a job. You need a job, alright? So we try to get that as well, okay? Because this plane has its own law, alright? Own law that governs this plane, and it has its own limitations, alright? Even though we are gods, we're still in this vehicle, alright? So we don't express our full godly potential, because you can't have your whole godly essence and all of your love and light and all of your psychic abilities at the level that it is in this body. There's not that I know of, my opinion, not that I know of, you can't have that in this. So we keep a connection. There's a connection that we keep to our godly self, alright? So we get the downloads that we call downloads, but it's actually within load, or inner understanding, or going in, anything you want to call it, but we call it downloads because we say it's coming from down, but I mean from up, but it's not actually, it's coming from within. So we get these inner loads, alright? Now these inner loads are the connection cable or umbilical cord that we have with our higher self, with our godly essence, with higher dimensional beings, and all of these things, alright? But we still living on the 3D plane. So in this vehicle, in this vessel that we're in, it has its own vibrations. It vibrates at a certain vibration. Okay, now these vibrations that it vibrates at has its own basically experiences. It has its own you could say emotions, all right? Because emotions are vibrations and thought patterns. It has its own emotions and thought patterns. So now we are subjective to what this body vibrates at. Okay, so we connect ourselves with our higher self and the godly self to basically tame and to change and to basically discipline the 3D guy. Alright, my cousin would say, what? No way, discipline the 3D guy. But it happens automatically anyway. As soon as you awaken, you start taming and you start disciplining the 3D guy. Whether you like to understand it or believe it, it happens anyway. Alright, so now the 3D guy is prone to fear. He's scared of losing his job. He's scared of being broke. He's scared of losing the relationship. He's scared of losing all that he accumulated over the years. Okay, he's scared of not having. So he has fear. He has hatred towards some people, some enemies of his. He has even the thought of enemies. All right. He has lust. He has anger. He has all these lower vibrations. That's the 3D guy. He also has a house. He also has a car. He also has things that are valuable to him that he keeps close to him, that he doesn't want to lose. Alright? That's the 3D guy. And I'm here to say that no matter what you accumulate, no matter what you've gained in life, no matter how successful you are in life, that is not who you truly are. You are a God, and you're not of this dimension. You're not of this reality. You are not of this plane. So no matter what you gain, it's a losing game, because you're still going to lose it in the end of the day. Okay? So that is the 3D dimension. Now when you become awake to who you are, you shift into the 4th dimension. The 4th dimension is the gateway to the 5th dimension. Okay, so now the 4th dimension is thoughts. Alright? So visualizations, all that I've been teaching on meditations and stuff, these are the 4th dimensional acts and attributes. Alright? And like the 5th dimension is of love and light. It's pure love and light. There's no physical body on the 5th dimension. It's basically energy, frequencies, and love and light. It's higher frequencies on the 5th dimension. Okay, so now we understand that the 5th dimension has its own requirements to enter. Alright, and you cannot take what's on the 3rd dimension into the 5th dimension. So that's why we awaken and we change our mindset. we change our emotions, we change the things that we are doing on the third dimension. Alright? So when we leave this, we can enter into the fifth dimension. Or even when we are here, we can enter the fourth dimension, which is the gateway to the fifth dimension. Alright? So we start to do things like meditation. We start to do things like eating right. We start to do things like yoga. We start to chant. We start to visualize. We start to be our true self. Alright? We start to connect and tune in with our psychic abilities and who we are. Because we are not only just human beings, we just projected as human beings, but we are gods. Alright? Okay. So now the fourth dimension is made out of thought patterns, it's made out of visualization, it's also made out of the astral plane. So if you have astral projected before, you would know what's the astral plane. If you had remembered your dreams before, you would know what's the astral plane. If you had become lucid before, you would know what's the astral plane. If you haven't become lucid before, check out my previous videos on the lucid dreaming series. Check out the playlist and you'll find all the lucid dreaming videos under the playlist, lucid dreaming series. Then you will know what's the astral plane. So now through the astral plane, we can meet higher dimensional beings, spirit guides, angels, demons, even your past relatives, grannies, great grannies. Love my granny. You can meet extraterrestrial beings, intergalactical beings. You can even meet other enlightened beings like us, gods on the fourth dimension, other awakened beings, higher dimensional beings. You can meet all of these beings on the fourth dimension. The fourth dimension is a teaching ground, a training ground to express your godly self. Because when you go into the fourth dimension, you have no form. The only form you have is the form you thought you had, which is the third dimension. That's why when you astral project, you come out of your body in this form. But the more further you go into astral projecting, you realize that you lose this form and just become a point of consciousness. When you look at your hands in the astral projection, you will lose the form. Your hands will melt away and you lose the form. Okay, that's the form of the fourth dimension. It's getting you ready for what's on the fifth dimension, which is formless. Okay, so that's the fourth dimension. That's what the 3D dimension is, and that's what the fourth dimension is. What's the fifth dimension? The fifth dimension is love and light. Now we can embody the fifth dimension as to a degree on the third dimension. The fifth dimension holds the gifts of God, which is your clairvoyance, your clairaudience. It has everything. The fifth dimension can see all, hear all, and is expressive unconditionally on the fifth dimension. Your love is unconditional. It has no conditions on the fifth dimension. You are love and light beyond. You have it all. Now, the reason why we can start to have clairvoyance, clairaudience, healing abilities on the third dimension is because we connect the third dimension through the fourth dimension, which is the gateway, into the fifth dimension. We tap into the fifth dimension. We don't enter the fifth dimension, because in order to enter the fifth dimension, you'd have to be formless. You'd have to be out of this physical body. So we tap into our godly essence on the 5th dimension, and that is then carried to the 4th dimension, which is carried into the 3D dimension, which is within us, and then we are able to do these miraculous things, these Jesus things, which is walk on water, which is heal the sick, which is raise the dead, which is give sight to the blind, you know, powerful things, which is the normal things, which is clairvoyance and clairaudience, seeing spirits, hearing spirits, seeing auras, channeling, all of these things. Now, this is the 5th dimension. On the 5th dimension, there is multi-dimensional beings on the 5th dimension, higher dimensional beings on the 5th dimension, which is, you can say angels, you can say demons, and when I say demons, people are like, whoa, what are demons doing on the 5th dimension? Listen, we are all one. We are all one. Consciousness, enlightened consciousness is all one. When we raise our consciousness to the 5th dimension, there is no you, me, him, her. It's all one consciousness. When we are on the 3rd dimension, we can channel what's on the 5th dimension through the 4th dimension. The 4th dimension is a gateway to the 5th dimension. Now, say there's an angel or a demon or an alien or a higher dimensional being on the 5th dimension. We go into meditation, we go into our form of relaxing our mind into trance, alright, the theta state. Once you go into that state, you are now no longer of the 3rd dimension. You lose contact, you lose connection with the 3rd dimension. Where are you now? You are now on the 4th dimension. And when you're on the 4th dimension, you can access or tap into or channel what's on the 5th dimension. When you channel what's on the 5th dimension, it comes out of the vehicle of the 3rd dimension. When you channel what's on the 5th dimension, it comes out of the vehicle on the 3rd. But it's not the 3rd dimensional vehicle that is doing the work. When you're healing someone, it's not the hands that is doing the work. It's the chakras that is not off the 3rd dimension. The chakras are of a higher dimension. So when you're sending energy out of your hands to heal, it's actually a 5th dimensional skill. It's actually your godly self skill. I hope I'm making sense. But if I am, keep up with it and we're going somewhere. Alright? So we can channel things that are of a higher dimension on the 3rd dimension. And that is the purpose of being the godly you. To change humanity to become more 5th dimensional. That's why we groom or we tame or we discipline the 3rd dimensional being to become more connected, to become more 4th dimensional, to become more 5th dimensional. That's why we do what we do. My cousin says, hey, you shouldn't be taming the 3D guy, because the 3D guy should be the 3D guy. But the 3D guy cannot still remain to be the guy that he was before he awoken to his enlightenment. There's no way that can happen. There's no way that you right now awaken to your godly self and your godly knowing, your godly memories, go back to just being a sleeping. You can't. Once you awaken, you awaken. You can't go back to be asleep. Now, what happens when you awaken? When you awaken, you realize your true identity. And why would you live as a zebra when you know you're a lion? You know, you can't do that anymore. You understand? So you have to be your godly self, whether you like it or not. And when you're being non-godly, when you're being non-love and light, when you're being, you will feel it within you. And that's the only time there's conflict and there's sadness and there's depression, is because you are not truly being your true potential as a God. There's things that come with being the God. There's things like drinking non-tap water. You can be ignorant to this. You can be ignorant to it, but you'll know that you're being ignorant to it. You have to tame and you have to discipline the 3D man. If that is too much of a hard like words for you, like tame and discipline, when you hear discipline, you're thinking these things that are of the 3D mind, which is punishments and all of these stuff. Let's talk grooming. Just grooming him, grooming her to be more godly. And that will strengthen the connection you have with the true you, the godly you. You can't do nothing but be more godly when you know that you're God. How can you deny your identity? You can't then deny it anymore. If you know you're a multi-dimensional being, then you can't go back to being a 3D guy or a 3D girl and just living your life lavishly and indulging in 3D. Because if that's the case, then you're not going to be an enlightened being living out his full potential. As an enlightened being, there's two experiences. There is two experiences. One is the experience of a 3D man or 3D woman who's just living their life not knowing their God, and striving and hustling and doing what they want to do, whether it's killing and murder, whether it's tramping on heads to get up in life, whether it's being afraid of losing all that they have, and whether it's being scared of death and just living their life in the 3D realm, thinking that that's where it is and that's all there is for into life or for life. And then the other is awakened being, which is connecting themselves, remembering who they are and connecting with that godly self. And the more they connect with it, the more they live a Jesus life. There's a sleeping God and doing whatever he needs to do 3D wise. And then there's the awakened God, which chooses the path of conscious enlightenment, and he lives a Jesus life. The Jesus life is the life of miracles, the life of powers, the life of grooming, the life of connection with true self. Knowing who you are. I would rather live my life as the true me than to live a life of someone I'm not. If I know there's a choice, and that's why there's still a choice. Even when you become enlightened, there's a choice. Do I carry on the path of enlightenment and follow the path of enlightenment, or do I say, okay, I know I'm a God, but let me just live my life as a 3D person? The choice is still yours. I follow the choice of following the path of conscious enlightenment. The more I follow that path, the more I connect with my godly self, and the more I remember who I am as a God. Okay? That's the godly path. The other path is, I live my life, I do what I need to do, I strive, I hustle, I accomplish, I be successful, and I lose it all anyway in the end. Consciousness is never lost. Consciousness is never lost. You'll never lose consciousness. Alright? you will lose everything that you gain, everything that you accumulate on the 3D realm, because you're not 3D. But everything that you accumulate, everything that you gain, everything that you learn, everything that you remember on the 4D, 5D will still remain, even when you leave the 3D realm. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for being here and listening, watching, and just open your mind, open your heart, and hear this message and try to make sense of it within you. Already within you, there's a godly being that knows what I'm talking about, because where I'm speaking from is of a love and light, higher dimensional vibration, higher dimensional language. So your godly self already knows what I'm talking about. The only person that is trying to make sense of it is this logical mind that comes with the 3D body. He's trying to make sense of it. She's trying to make sense of it. Alright? But take your time. Meditate on it. Let it simmer. Let it settle within you, and you realize that you understand this message completely. Thank you so much for being here. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't hit the subscribe button already, and hit the bell icon so you never lose or miss out a video. Okay, thank you so much. I leave you guys in power.